White supremacy culture is an architecture of systemic empathy failure. It is not just what is done, but how emotion itself is weaponized, suppressed, extracted, or ignored to maintain power. Let's get into the 15 characteristics of systemic empathy failure inside of white supremacy culture. So the first way is emotional invalidation, dismissing or minimizing others' feelings, especially marginalized voices, to maintain dominance. And we saw this play out on what's happening right now on this app with the Unfuck America tour, where Z got on that live to dismiss the concerns of the Black women around the organization of that tour. And she did that because she wanted to maintain dominance. Disconnection from impact, prioritizing intent over harm, and ignoring the emotional fallout of actions and policies. Fragile self-protection, centering the dominance group's feelings over the lived pain of others. That's another thing that Z did on that live. Her feelings got hurt by the women saying that the event was not organized. And so because her feelings were hurt, she ignored that these Black women probably have lived experiences around organizations. Efficiency over humanity. This is where Dean shows up in this tour. I don't know if you guys heard the call of Dean making to Peyton to basically tell him he was no longer needed on the tour because efficiency over humanity, valuing speed, profit, productivity more than people's well-being. So Peyton was concerned about the well-being of the women that was harmed by Z, and Dean and the rest of them were concerned more about the efficiency of getting the tour done. So that's another way it shows up, efficiency over humanity. Hierarchy of worthiness, believing some lives, some emotions, and some experiences matter more than others. Now this, I will say, while I will tell you that all of us can participate within white supremacy, this hierarchy of worthiness seems to be unique to white-bodied people, especially when they're in the presence of a marginalized group, whether that's Black people, brown people, Asian people, or gay people. They are at the top of worthiness of their emotions to be acknowledged over everybody else. Suppression of grief and rage, labeling emotional expressions from oppressed groups as unprofessional, angry, dangerous. Demand for emotional conformity, expecting marginalized people to regulate their emotions to make the dominant group comfortable. We saw this when Heba came on this app, whether that story was true or not. But essentially in that request, she wanted the Black people experiencing anti-Blackness to ignore that and to be sad, concerned, angry for the Palestinian people. So what is happening to them, their emotions, she wanted them to suppress it, their anger, suppress it, their rage, suppress it, their grief, suppress it, because the most important thing now is not them, it is the Palestinian people. Policing of empathy, deciding who deserves compassion and who doesn't based on stereotypes and biases. So whenever there are people in the room, and if the person, let's just say, we're going to leave Black folks alone for a minute, but let's just say you have a very effeminate or flamboyant gay person in the room, and that person is harmed because the stereotypes is, oh, they do too much. They're always so loud. They're always so this. Then you get to police whether or not this person receives empathy, even if that person was harmed by the dominant group. Conditional compassion, offering empathy only when people perform respectability according to the dominant norms. So we will have compassion if you have done and performed in the way that the dominant culture, the dominant group deems appropriate. So we will care about this person being harmed, we'll care about this person being hurt because, you know, Tammy, she's a good Black. You know, John, he's a good gay. You know, Sally, she's a good woman. So whatever the dominant group is, if you have performed respectfully from their point of view, they will give you compassion. If you have not, you are not deserving of compassion. So conditional compassion. Fear of emotional accountability, avoiding honest reflection on the emotional harm caused by systems of oppression. So have you ever been in the room with white people, maybe they're older white people, and you start talking about systemic issues, and they say things like, well, you know, everybody enslaved everybody. You know, this slavery had been happening for centuries, for millennia. Fear of emotional accountability. Because if I can put it off on everybody's done that, everybody's treated everybody poorly, everybody's been racist, everybody's been prejudiced, then I don't have to deal with whether or not I have done that. And the feelings that may come up for me because I actually have done or I have behaved in a way that was racist, that was homophobic, that was ableist. So fear of emotional accountability. Now, this is something that white people do all the time, and I see this mostly with white people than any other group. Emotional extraction, demanding marginalized people educate, comfort or emotionally labor for them. Well, how was we supposed to know? Well, then you guys should teach us. You should teach me. It's always trying to extract from you. Normalization of emotional detachment, treating numbness, apathy, and emotional disconnections as sign of professionalism or objectivity. These are your devil's advocate. Well, let me just play devil's advocate. Well, I'm not being emotional. I am being objective. Surefire ways of characteristics of systemic empathy failure within inside of white supremacy culture. Monopolization of victimhood, positioning dominant groups as the real victims when conversations about harm arise. How many times have we seen white men get on this app? White men are now the victims. They're all, everybody hates white men and everybody hates white women. So they monopolize being victims. Disdain for vulnerability. Treating emotional honesty, apology, and humility as weakness rather than strength. Have you ever been in the comment section of a white person who has done something wrong and they come on this app to apologize? It's nothing but white people saying, you didn't need to apologize. These people are so weak. You don't need to apologize. These people are such snowflakes. They treat vulnerability and you apologizing or giving an apology as if it's weakness. There's no strength in that. And finally, institutionalized gaslighting, systemically denying, distorting, or dismissing emotional truths of marginalized people. Whatever is a truth for you emotionally, they will dismiss it. They will gaslight you. I don't know why you feel that way. Nobody meant it that way. Nobody said it that way. I'm unsure why you're so upset. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a sure-sign way that you are engaging with somebody who does not hold the necessary empathy to understand you or even see you. Now, if you recognize yourself in any of those, if you recognize your family members, your friends, your kids, your boss, in any of those characteristics, I want to encourage you, or if you recognize yourself, most importantly, if you recognize yourself, I want to encourage you to really do the work around empathy. I want to encourage you to go to my website, pcqconsulting.com, and download your self-empathy scorecard, because maybe you do all of this to yourself. Maybe you gaslight yourself. Download your self-empathy scorecard. How are you treating yourself? And then your empathy scorecard. How are you treating people outside of yourself? So that you'll be able to recognize these characteristics in yourself and in others.